Hey YouTubers, I have a product here from Primos. It is their 250 yard Varmint hunting light kit. It's a quartz halogen spot beam. They label it 250 yard, fits all 25mm or 1-inch diameter scopes, 6-volt rechargeable battery with carrying case, 110 volt charger, stock mounted switch, and it comes with a red Varmint lens. I used it a couple weekends ago. Here's the actual scope. It has a detach, so here's the scope mount. Mount it to your scope. This detaches so that once you mount this, you can just leave it on your scope. When you're ready to go, attach it. This switch right here mounts to your gun. You put it up on the front end. And here's the battery. Comes in this case. It's a small battery compared to the 12 volt, which some of the lights are 12 volt and they're huge. I'll get into this later, but I put this Velcro on here. I was having problems keeping it connected, and when I tell you the story you'll understand why. So I put this Velcro on here to help keep it from popping off. So then this hooks up here. You have your rifle or your scope up here. Press the button, there's the red light. It stays on once you press it on. It is also adjustable horizontally, so when you get it on, adjust this so that it aligns with where your scope is at however many yards you're going to use it out. Then it also comes with this charger, and to charge it you simply unplug the battery from the spotlight and click it in here. Now, first off, I bought this at Cabela's for $82.99, and I will say that for $82.99, I think of all the scopes I reviewed or researched and looked at features, I would say this one is the best one for 83 bucks. Probably the best one for under 100 bucks. I think the next model up, if I remember correct, I could be wrong. They have a Primos has a 350 yard scope for 120 bucks, which also seemed like a good deal. A lot of the other lights on the market were a lot bigger than this. They stood up higher, and I really didn't want to get any bigger than this. This is plenty big here. So, like I said, for 83 bucks, I think this is the best one that I researched. However, I'm gonna say I did have some issues with it. Most of them minor, but I did have a little bit bigger issue. First off, the scope mount. My scope is a 1-inch tube, which is what it's supposed to be. The problem is, due to the mounting system I have on my scope, there's not a lot of scope space that is the 1-inch tube. So I had to mount it kind of half on where it starts to get bigger in the front, and kind of had a hard time keeping it on there. I could push it on, but if I bumped it, it would pop off. So what I did is I just took some Velcro, because if I had tape that would work. I didn't have tape, so I taped it on there, and that worked. It kept it on there pretty good. So that's just something to keep in mind. I do wish that they had some type of thing that you could mount on a Picatinny rail. I think that would be a little bit more convenient. Maybe in the future that would be nice if they come out with something like that. The second thing is, I don't know, in my honest opinion, and I don't have a lot of experience coyote hunting. In fact, this is my first time, so I don't have a lot of experience. But in my opinion, I don't believe this is a 250 yard scope. You can probably see for 250 yards. I don't know how efficient it would be to properly illuminate the target. Now the other thing, and this is a little bit bigger thing, I had an issue with this popping off. the first time I took it out. Now the second time I put this Velcro on there and it stayed on there just fine. The first time I took it out, this kept popping off at a really bad time. In fact, it cost me a coyote. So I had my collar about 50 yards out in front of me, and this was my first time ever. I had a lot of gear with me, some stuff I didn't need. I thought I might need it, didn't need it, and I was making too much noise. So I was out for about 20 minutes and didn't see anything, and I'm like, you know what? I probably scared every coyote in the woods away. So I decided to wrap it up. So I stood up, and you know, before I did, I figured I'd turn the spotlight on and look at the target, or look down by the collar just to make sure there's nothing down there. So I turn on the scope, and there's a coyote standing there staring at me. So I raised my rifle, and I had a hard time finding him. I started out with a different scope. I didn't have the Trigicon on the first night I went out, which I wish I would have for the reticle, but I didn't. And I had a really hard time finding him. It was zoomed in way too close, and it was a high-powered scope. Should have never used it, but couldn't find a coyote. So I'm fumbling around, and the battery falls out, which disconnects. The connector's right here, unhooked. So I had to search around on the ground, trying to find the battery, then trying to reconnect it, making all kinds of noise, clinking about. So I finally get it hooked up again, and raise my rifle, and the coyote is still there, staring at me, thinking, what a moron. This guy's never going to shoot me. So I start looking for him again, and I thought I was holding the battery good enough so that it wouldn't fall out. I kind of hooked it to my rifle stock, and it fell again and disconnected again. So at this point, by the time I got it hooked up, the coyote was long gone. So it cost me a coyote. I mean, I don't know if I can blame the light. It was more, it was my first time. It was a cluster. So, I'm not going to fully blame the light, but I would just say that if it didn't unhook as easily as it did, I would have the coyote. But then I'd also argue if I wasn't fumbling about, if I had disattached better. There's a lot of variables. So, but, I would say that, like I said, for an $83 spotlight, Varmint spotlight, this is a good buy. And I would, if I had a choice, if I was on a budget and I had less than $100 to spend, I would still buy this spotlight. I think it's a good spotlight. So, but just, I just wanted to inform you of the weaknesses and how you can fix them. Because, like I said, you can fix the issues with this. As far as attaching it on and attaching this, you can fix it. So, and it's cheap to fix. 50 cents for a little bit of Velcro or some tape. So, if you have any questions, let me know. Semper Fi.